Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and early morning. Ooh, gosh, this hour, man. Taking this, letting this hour go back is kind of throwing things off a bit. But everything works for the betterment of humanity, and you know, I feel this no different about this in any degree. So, yes, I hope everybody on this call or this episode is doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, I greatly appreciate your presence and your time to listen in because, it's amazing what can happen when a group of people get together and spirit is in the midst of it. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for um, just allowing me to come into your daily lives, whether it's now early in the morning or at some point in time later on throughout the day. All right. So before I get into anything, I just want to say something about this whole coronavirus thing. And I'm just going to be outright honest. Don't allow fear to dictate your life, right? One of the biggest things in our episode today is finding a way to ease fear out in every possible capacity you can and not get caught up in one, believing everything you hear, because oftentimes the media is just creating a story to create havoc, amongst especially the American people. But more importantly, you just can't live in fear, especially as entrepreneurs. Like, I hear all these people, beginning to get like apprehensive and nervous about, what's going to happen to their business and how is the coronavirus going to affect it. But I'm like, you know what? This is why we have spiritual principles and we understand that customers, bank accounts, investment accounts, loan advisor, all that other stuff, that's not the source, right? Spirit is the source. And I say that adamantly because if you know spirit is the source, you're just sitting back watching everybody build themselves into a frenzy for absolutely nothing, right? I heard the statistics the other day about this whole thing, and more people are being killed by the flu than they are by coronavirus. So for me, I refused to go down in fear at any time. I think fear is a blessing because fear shows us when we're out of alignment with love. And the moment I know I'm in fear, I tap right back into alignment with love. And I'm asking you to do the same. Do not allow yourself to get caught up in this because it can derail everything you find near and dear to your heart. And whatever you do, whatever you take with that, so be it. But I just felt the need to voice that out and to really you got to stay in a place of faith. You got to stay in a place of faith. You got to stay in a place of really creating a foundation that is just basically on top of spirit's shoulders and allowing spirit to work in you, through you, around you, and as you. And as long as you do that, you'll be better than okay. Everybody will be wondering like, oh my God, how are you thriving and everything's falling apart? Well, because I didn't make the thing that's unsustainable my source. And that's important to know. That's always, you always have to recheck back in with your source, which is spirit. So let me get off my soapbox and actually talk about today's topic, today's episode. So expectations, so my experience with expectations is an interesting one because I feel like I've gone back and forth so many times with expecting something, then relaxing, and then letting go and expecting again and expecting and just back and forth to the point where it just drove me absolutely insane, right? So I just stopped and I said, you know what? I'm going to go within and check in with spirit and see what does spirit feel about expectations, right? And what I got was absolutely pivotal in creating any type of business, in creating any type of successful endeavor, and that's having a healthy set of expectations. And let me explain to you what a healthy set of expectations is. To succeed, to have everybody else involved succeed and be affected in the best possible way, in the highest possible, with the highest possible good, to always have balance between my life and my business, right? And to never compromise my integrity while doing business, right? And so when you really think about what expectations do and how they shape what begins to happen for you. I'll give you an example. So the whole Your Spirit, Your Business concept was born like I think a couple months before. I mean, Dr. Chris Michaels was likely thinking about it for a very long time, but he mentioned it to my wife and I want to say like maybe 2 or 3 months before. That gave me so much time to really bring in the expectations that I wanted for this, but also to be involved, or not involved, but rather to allow it to evolve into what Spirit felt like was in its highest good, and then I could make the choice, because it's always free will. You're offered the choice, and then you have to decide whether to make it or not. And so in having that time before all this got kicked off, it really allowed me to create some powerful expectations about what I wanted from myself, right? And one of those expectations was to transform the way that people look at business so it becomes an easier way of life for everybody walking the spiritual path, and just everybody in general, because everybody's walking the spiritual path, even if they're atheists. They may not know it, but there's a higher power that is at play within them and around them. So that was one of the expectations. Another expectation was to continually spiritually grow and expand myself beyond where I've been. And that's happening. That's happening daily, right? And so what I'm getting at is, let's say you're ready to start enterprising. And, you know, it's been something you've been thinking about. Take at least a week, maybe even more if you got the time. And I'm not just talking about procrastinating. I'm talking about really taking focused time through prayer, through meditation within Spirit, to connect, to see what the divine says about this entire concept, this entity, and allow those ideas to come into your experience, into your existence, right? And at the same time, be bold. Ask Spirit, what are the greatest expectations that I can have for this business, right? What are the greatest expectations for me, for the people I'm dealing with, that I can have for this business? And all of a sudden, what begins to happen, and you'll always succeed whenever there is clarity. And you'll see that clarity begins to be born throughout this whole process of creating these dynamic expectations, right? A perfect example, and I think back to my own experience, in high school or even middle school, athletics, dance, even when it comes to academics, the kids that expect to succeed and flourish are the ones that do. The ones that expect to be mediocre or expect to fail are the ones that fail. And how do I know this? I lived it. I can remember early on in school, nobody ever really said much of anything about what type of grades you were supposed to get. So I got all A's and B's. I can remember going all the way into maybe 4th or 5th grade, I got A's and B's, right? And then all of a sudden, there became this talk about being average, being below average. Well, I never did that well, so maybe you shouldn't do that well. And guess what? I started to get C's and D's. And all of a sudden, at that time, I couldn't really understand why I was getting the grades I was getting, but it was simple. I didn't have the mindset to succeed, right? I didn't have the expectations. If I go into a test knowing that I'm going to fail or knowing that I might not have everything I need to succeed, what's going to happen? I mean, I may get lucky, but in most cases, I'm not going to pass. One of the greatest experiences of my life, and this basically showed me the power of my expectations. I was doing a pre-calculus class my senior year, and I'm just going to be real with you. My first half of my senior year was dedicated to me playing football. That's all I was worried about, But I was like flunking. And the teacher said that unless you really come alive in the second half, you'll be in summer school your senior year. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta get this. I gotta do something, And so all of a sudden I remember my mindset shifted. I was like, you know what? I have to be a success. I will expect nothing other than to succeed and to do better. Now tell me why for the first two quarters, my grades were 65 and 66. And then the third and the fourth quarter, they went from that to 87 and 88. And I can just remember my teacher, Ms. Juhas, being so proud of me because she just couldn't figure out what had happened. I couldn't either, but I know what happened. The mindset, the expectation to succeed had changed, right? It had changed, and that allowed within myself, within my subconscious, to create the behaviors that were going to predicate the actions that I wanted. And I mean, this works in every aspect of life. If you got kids, talk them up. Let them get a big head. Not to the point where they're arrogant, but where they're confident enough to know that they are capable. Nothing worse than having a kid who can't, process or who feels like inadequate. And it's so much of that, right? But I was saying, like, even in sports, you could tell the kids who had the confidence because they played the fastest, they played the strongest, they played the most confident. They knew within themselves that they could succeed. The ones that didn't played scared, played afraid. And I've been on both sides of the ball, to experience that. But it all gets back to those expectations, right? So you're starting a business. And it's really good to write stuff out. Most people think that's, kind of outdated. But what happens when you write something down is it registers within your subconscious mind. So make that seem outlandish to you now, expectations. It's okay to make realistic, but stretch yourself, and expect to succeed. And look, if success is becoming one of those things where it's difficult, go within. I didn't get a chance to do it the first session that we had, if you were there, but the number one successful trait of all entrepreneurs is this: introspection. Spiritual introspection, going within to figure out what is happening on the inside of you, because when you take care of what's on the inside, everything outside takes care of itself. And that's a big problem I find with entrepreneurs, because you have to break free from being reliant on a boss or somebody to pay you without having to worry about it. See, the only way you get paid as an entrepreneur is you develop on the inside what you need. If you don't have it inherently already, you develop on the inside what you need to be able to have people to want to pay you. And that comes from your self-love. That comes from your self-worth. That comes from you ridding yourself of any type of stagnant, buried, futile emotions that may lie within you. Okay? So we have to deal with that if we find that creating the right type of expectations are not serving us. in the highest good, are not serving us to succeed, right? So getting back to the whole concept of thinking about, really thinking about the expectations that you have for something, right? When I get up to speak on stage, and I'll be honest with you, I've done multiple videos and I've acted and I've done all this stuff, but to actually get up on stage and speak, I didn't have much experience, but what I did have is a vision and an imagination about what it would look like when I got up on stage to do it. And I saw myself as a masterful speaker. I couldn't accept anything else because I only could see myself succeeding. And anytime the even thought or inkling of failure creeped in, I pushed it out. I said, you know what? Nope, that's not me. That's not for me. I'm succeeding exponentially. And I'm going to do everything I can to be a masterful speaker. And everything I need to do in order to do that winds up happening effortlessly because I'm creating the right type of expectation. And it colors my experience. It colors my experience. And it's the most thrilling thing when you set an expectation for something and it manifests almost the exact same way that you envisioned it, or even better in most cases, right? So we have to set the proper expectation, right? And the one way you can do that, and I'll tell you this and I'll let you go, is what do I really want or desire to happen within this business? What am I truly expecting from this business? Start from there. Because when you have something that powerful, all of a sudden there'll be subdivisions of that thing that will allow you to create even more expectations to serve your growth, to serve your happiness, to serve your joy. I'm telling you, it's just, I don't want to say that easy, but it's that simple to implement, and then you got to do the work to ensure that it's there. If you find that you're not succeeding in anything, your expectations are jacked up. That's all that is. Because, and I'm not talking about surface beliefs, because anybody can sit up there and tell me, yeah, I want a successful business, but then you listen to them talk, and then you can see why they're not succeeding. It's because there's unconscious junk and stagnant emotions that need to be released. So introspection, remember that. You got to go within. You have to. Okay? All right. We'll set an intention for you here, and then we will let you go on your way on this beautiful, Thursday. Wow, the week is flying by. Okay. Do me a favor. Let's do a hookup. Middle finger, right hand on the center between your eyebrows, your third eye, and take that other middle finger on the left hand and place it on your chest. Take a deep breath. Focus on a deep-seated compassion for yourself or for anybody else you can think of right now, even for the world, as this frenzy of fear overtakes so many people with this whole corona Heineken virus thing happening. But anywho, just feel some compassion for that. Good. And let's just set the intention. Spirit, it is our intention to manifest expectations that will not only serve our highest good, but serve the highest good of everybody we choose to do business with. We know within you we have every single thing that we could need and desire to live the life that we want. And we allow you to come in, releasing all resistance, welcoming all things that are of a high vibration that allow us to put ourselves into a position to have great expectations for our business and for our lives. We thank you for making this a real possibility within our lives. And so it is. Have a wonderful day, guys. We will talk soon. Remember, expectations are everything. Take care.